Wake Up Mintzy, presented to you by the fine folks of Dude Wipes and Stella Blue. Snowing its ass off in Chicago. It's cold, it's winter, but it's always warm in the Barstool office. So we've got a lot of fun stuff to get to today. We're going to be joined by Josh Pate, one of the rising stars in college football media. Can't wait to catch up with him in a few minutes. We got Tyler Moody holding it down as always from Louisiana. I'm pounding Stella Blues as I always am to stay warm on this glorious morning. We got a new feature on the show where we're letting fans leave voicemails, and we've got some voicemails we're going to play for Josh. We're going to talk some NFL, and we're going to mainly talk college football with him, getting ready for the national championship, Ohio State, Notre Dame, and talk about the Pate State travels. Moody, do we got you here? How are you this morning?
Hey, what's up, Ben? What's going on, brother?
Doing good, morning, man. Just drinking some Stella Blue. It's just snowing like crazy here. I'm dressed up because we got a big thing this afternoon. I think it's the first time I've ever worn a suit in the Barstool office. Excited about it.
Well, yeah, you're looking good, and I'll tell you what, guys, we're doing some stuff a little bit different today. We got a totally different system set up, so we're going to play a few voicemails that are for Josh. We've got some stuff for Mintzy later on. The only problem is Josh and I can't be connected at the same time, so we'll kind of play these early on, and then we'll let Mintz and Josh take over the show. And we have something very special coming your way tomorrow. We've been making you some promises, and we're going to deliver on that tomorrow.
All right. Let's fire away. And then the voicemail thing, if you want to leave voicemails for the show, we've got a number, 872-222-8541. Roast me, whatever. Call in, talk some football, whatever you want. We're going to be playing them. This is going to be a new feature of the show.
All right, here we go.
Hey, Josh Pate, if you're hearing this, I just wanted to tell you that I love your content, man. I watch every show, try to watch it live, and just keep up the work you're doing, man. I love listening to your podcast shit when, whenever I'm just chilling on the game or something. So, but yeah, man, just keep it up, man. Have a good one.
A little bit of love for Josh there.
Love Josh. Riveting take. Where's the G?
We want some take. Here's a good one right here.
Hey, Josh. My name's Ryan. I'm originally from Tennessee. Went to college out at BYU. First of all, new listener to your show this year. Listened to about every episode. Big fan. I'm a BYU fan and a Tennessee fan. And first of all, what the heck? BYU hate. No coverage with the Colorado game. We smoked Colorado, put them in their place, and nobody seemed to care. And second of all, I have a question for you. As a Tennessee fan, and I've heard other people say this, but do you think Josh Heupel at Tennessee has what it takes to deliver a national championship for Tennessee? Or is he just the guy, the in-between guy, to get us top 10 or so each year, but can't actually win the big game? What are your thoughts on that? Thank you. Love listening to your show. Have a good one. See you.
All right, then we got one more good one here, and then I'll jump off and we'll let Josh answer these.
All right.
Hey, I'm just calling in to ask if Josh knows how stupid he looks in that picture. How many takes did you do?
All right, now we're joined by Josh Pate. What's going on this morning? How are you?
Well, so I got to minimize this because I was actually listening to some of the calls while I was out in the lobby, the digital lobby. Mintz, do you get a feeling that the voicemail situation could go really good or really poorly and no in between?
Yeah, well, we do, and we're just trying this the first time we've done it. I mean, we're screening them because Moody's screening them just in case somebody says some stuff we can't air. We've all, no more misunderstandings here. But yeah, I'm excited about it. It's a new element to talk to the fans, and I see a lot of people, the chat likes it. And so, honestly, let's be honest, Josh, I'm a really easy target. I'm probably going to get roasted on them, but hey, it's nothing. I got thick skin if there's one thing I've got. So I think it'll be pretty funny. But thanks for coming on this morning. I know Pate State's been rolling. I saw you at the Orange Bowl last week. You picked the sunnier of the two games. How was your experience down there?
Yeah, it was good. It was not fun getting back because Nashville got hammered with snow. We got like 5 or 6 inches of snow. It took 16 hours, I think, for what should have been a 3 or 4 hour just quick connection through Atlanta. McElroy was on my flight, first leg. He ended up delayed for 7 hours, got canceled, had to drive 40 miles an hour from Atlanta to Birmingham. So
Oh,
could have
geez.
been worse. Yeah, could have been a lot worse. But it was good, man. I see all this talk now about the ratings coming out, and ESPN puts their big fancy graphic out, and then everyone starts to break down how did this game perform year over year with like the Alabama-Michigan semifinal game last year. Are ratings down? Are ratings up? And I've always been of the opinion that 99.9% of people shouldn't concern themselves with TV ratings because they don't matter to you because you love what you love and you hate what you hate. You don't own a media company. You're probably not an executive at ESPN. So I say that because I'm looking at an inbox on my screen full of questions about TV ratings.
Well, I also think on the ratings front, I mean, the games were New Year's Day. Like the Ohio State-Oregon Rose Bowl did big ratings, right? Because that was in the exact same time slot as Bama-Michigan. So this is the first time they did the Thursday and Friday night playoff games, and so maybe it's a different time slot too. So
yeah, well,
I don't know.
Trying to look. I mean, I would love because so everyone's trying to make a point, and I'm agreeing with them, and that is, should college football games be played on a Thursday or a Friday? Well, of course, the answer is no. But no one in the decision-making chair for college football would ever have the stones to permanently challenge the NFL. You know, to me, by the way, challenge the NFL would be to play your games on Sunday. College football playing their games on Saturday, like they've done since God created the sport, would not actually be challenging the NFL. It's just for a long time, they kind of let the NFL come and take the Saturday spot for the postseason games. So I don't know, man. I've never worried about either one of them. I just love for college football games to be played on Saturday. I'd especially love the national championship game to be played either on Saturday, Mintzy, or on New Year's Day. But you'd have to really reconfigure the calendar to do the latter.
The one thing they could do on the scheduling front is the NFL doesn't have their first divisional game or wild card games till 3:30. They could do a big noon, like the noon game, still in front of it for one of the games.
Yeah. Or how about this? How about, I'm going to try and say this in 45 seconds, but it is a 1 hour show's worth of a topic. College football does everything for the NFL. The NFL does next to nothing for college football. If you think about what college football is for the NFL, by the time Ben Mintz, a first-round linebacker, gets to the NFL, everyone knows his name already. The NFL had to spend $0 marketing him because he played college football and everyone watches college football. The NFL had to spend $0 developing Ben Mintz because high school and then especially college football program he played for developed him. So the NFL just got a ready-made, fully marketed product out of it, and then they get to plug him in, and then they get to continue the NFL machine. And the NFL gets all the benefit from you having played college football. There is no reciprocation. So what you just said, how about this? How about instead of the college football national championship game going at noon on any kind of day, how about the NFL playoff take the early and mid-afternoon window and have it serve as a double lead-in to the college football championship game being the primetime game? That's the way I would try and approach it. That's the way I think it should be approached, because I think the NFL, for once in their lives, should actually look to work together with an entity that greatly serves the NFL. This isn't like them getting out of the way for baseball or the NBA.
No, and also, I mean, the other thing, as you mentioned, I mean, the college develops the players. NFL doesn't even really they don't have a minor league system. I mean, the college feeds all the players and does that for them. So that totally makes sense. As a football fan, though, I don't hate the way they did it with the Thursday, Friday night, and then you have NFL Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then this weekend we got the two divisional games, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday night title game. I guess from like a fan's perspective, I just like having football on all the time. But I know what you mean. College football is meant to be played on Saturdays.
Yeah, the other thing, I don't know if you can avoid this. Now I'm going to speak selfishly. The other thing is, from a logistical standpoint, even if you're not covering the games, okay, so even if you're just sitting at home watching everything on a TV, I don't know if everyone else feels like this, but there's a chunk of the calendar from, let's call it the first winter, like the first week of winter, so 12/20, all the way through Christmas, all the way through New Year's, all the way through after New Year's, where I never know what day of the week it is. Now, some people say, well, that's because Christmas throws everything into a blender, and part of that's true. But the other part of it is I've got football games on all kinds of weird days, because I set my mental calendar revolving around Saturday and Sunday being college football, NFL. And when that gets thrown into the blender, it really messes me up. So really what I'm trying to tell you is I just think people need to do what I want them to do for my own sake. That's really what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's why you need to be the next commissioner of college football.
Yes.
I've seen the movement on Twitter. People are all about it. Everybody knows the sport needs a commissioner, so why not you? You know, everybody wants to go to Pate State. I want to get the answers to those couple voicemails real quick. One guy was saying you didn't give BYU any love when they smoked Colorado. Any thoughts?
Okay. I don't have immediate recollection of this week. I don't have immediate recollection of what else happened. I get this accusation from time to time. Like the Saturday happens, and then I am at a game. Every Saturday I'm at a game, so I'm going to either drive back that night and get in super late or fly back early Sunday morning. But either way, we are stacking our most important show of the week, the Sunday show, for airing 24 hours later. Okay, so realistically, we could go 4 hours. It is the internet. There is no hard out. But more realistically, we're probably going to go about an hour or an hour and a half. So you know how this is. You're doing a show every day. You look like you're applying for a loan after today's show, by the way.
Oh, yeah, we got a big thing this afternoon in the office. It's the first time I've worn a suit in the Barstool office ever. So I'm going corporate. Going corporate, clearly.
Yeah. Do you look in the mirror and whisper the words, sell out? Because that's what I do when I go do CBS stuff and I wear a suit. I just look and I say, what are you doing?
The beauty of this job is you never have to, this is a rare occasion. Barstool is certainly not selling out working here. So I looked in the mirror and said, I look pretty damn good this morning, I think. So
well, never mind then. Don't let me put words in your mouth. Okay, so the BYU thing, what I'm guessing happened is we had a big week. There was an inordinate amount of stuff to talk about that would be your A, B, C, D, E, F, and G segments. And we ended up not talking about it at length. I don't remember this. If I did, my apologies to the entire Brigham Young community. It's been a running joke on my show that I say Brigham Young because I sound like an idiot when I say the Y because I'm from rural Georgia. So I can't say BYU. It's just BYU. And then they make fun of me for that. So that's probably why I shied away from it a little bit.
That's fair. Also, his other question was, does he think Josh Heupel is a bridge coach or can he win a national championship? I have a feeling you're going to vouch for him because I think he's done a damn good job. I mean, I don't know.
He's done.
What are they complaining? Well, look what Tennessee was before he got there. 2 years ago, they were undefeated into the South Carolina game late when Hooker tore his ACL. They would have made the playoffs in a 12-team 2 years ago, made it this year. Had an unfortunate draw. I mean, obviously they got smoked and ran into a buzzsaw against Ohio State, but I don't see how Tennessee fans could be upset about anything right now.
Yeah, so that kind of question there, think about the way it's asked. He asked, is Heupel a bridge coach or is he a guy who can win a playoff? There's a big difference in someone saying that versus saying, I think Heupel's a bridge coach. What do you think? So the latter guy just flat out says he's not good enough. The former guy is kind of saying, do you think he's good enough? So I don't answer those kind of questions dunking on it the same way I would the latter question. Because you're insane if you think Josh Heupel's not the real deal, or you're 4 years old and you have no recollection of what it was like to watch Derek Dooley wear orange pants on the Tennessee sideline and get smoked, or what it was like when Butch Jones was there. And man, there were like a couple of little spike moments where you thought it could happen, but in the end, what do people remember? They remember him having a garbage can on the sideline. That's basically what people remember of the Butch Jones era. Tennessee, man, think about the alternate reality we could have, Mintz, if you could pull out your, simulator, life simulator, and we could plug in the settings that has Lane Kiffin never leaving Tennessee for USC. What happens then? Like, what does the next 5 years look like? He could have wound up winning a title. He could have wound up in prison. And anything in between. No one knows how that would have played out, but it would have been fun.
Yeah, I saw that article came out about his last days when he left on the internet. I actually read a good bit of it. Man, that staff he had with Frank Wilson and he had a really good staff. And Monty Kiffin,
they could have. Man.
They almost beat Bama that first year. He definitely had it rolling. All right, so you did the Orange Bowl, Notre Dame, Penn State, classic game. Man, it was funny. I was watching the game in the Barstool Gambling Cave, and I told Hank right before that last possession, I was like, if they let Drew Aller throw, he's going to throw a pick. Like, and they didn't even want to it was tied, and they didn't even want to let him throw. They ran the ball on the first down, but they picked up like 13 yards, and like, okay, we got to throw and try to get a field goal now. But he's obviously coming back, and the running backs are coming back. But man, I don't know. I think he's going to be regretting that one for a while.
It was bad. That's where my eyes went. I was standing, kind of off on the right tackle side, a little bit behind the play on the sideline. So I had a really good view of him. So he throws the pick, and you can't believe it. And anytime I'm field level and a pick gets thrown, I always look at the quarterback immediately. And his hands are just like above his head, and he's in not regret. He's in like stunned shock that he just did it, I guess. Because you think about how crazy it is to invest the hours that you invest, weeks, months, years, but really your career comes down to a few moments in terms of the way people remember you or achieving what you really wanted to achieve from a tangible perspective. It comes down to a few moments. And that was the moment. Not that they could have won it, but that's the moment that they could have lost it. And they did. And I've been around him, dude. He's like a great dude to be around. I think he kind of came out of his shell a little bit more this year from a vocal leadership perspective. And very easy to pull for. But when you watch that, if you're like an Alabama fan in the mid Nick Saban era, it's like, oh man, Clemson just blew us out in the title game. And we'll be back next year. And we'll be back the year after that. Penn State folks can't think that way, man. This could be, for all they know, the closest they ever get to a national title under James Franklin. So it's way more devastating when they suffer a loss in that kind of moment, in that kind of fashion, than some powerhouse that is just going to reload every year.
Yeah, I agree, especially when they got the Boise and SMU draw.
Yep.
They benefited so much from the draw with the conference champions getting the 4 byes, and they obviously took care of business to get there, but they're going to regret it. The Notre Dame thing I want to touch on, because Marcus Freeman, such an interesting coach in that, you look at his few years there, and the knock on him is they've lost 3 games as like a 20-something point favorite to Marshall, Stanford, Northern Illinois. But every time it's a big game and they're an underdog or the line is close, they're always ready. He's got a swagger and a demeanor, and I don't know. I just am so impressed that they seem like they always find a way despite a pretty limited passing game.
Yeah, I think they're teaching a lot of people a lesson right now in, a number of ways. So the first way is when Brian Kelly left there a few years ago. If you think about it, you're Notre Dame. You could always do a national coaching search. Just like when Urban left Ohio State, you go through what you go through. Like when you have a job opening, you could do a national coaching search if you're one of those programs. It means a whole lot more when you think, no, we don't need to do that. We've already got the guy in-house. So you promote from within, whether it's Ryan Day or in this case, whether it's Marcus Freeman, and it works. Like that's the follow-up. It's got to work out. Because you look like an idiot if it doesn't work out, and everyone looks and says, you're Notre Dame. You're Ohio State. You could have gone and gotten anyone. Why did you put forth the dereliction of duty to just promote from within? So that's the first thing. The second thing is from a, yearly like team-based aspect, they're showing you got to have more than just a fastball. There's more than one way Notre Dame's found a way to win this year. It's got to be that way. Even if they had a prolific offense, there's going to be a week eventually where someone just crowbars you in the bicycle spokes and you come to a halt, and you got to be able to do something on special teams. You got to be able to do something defensively. Well, if you're built that way to begin with and you haven't been disproportionately leaning on one thing, you can do it. And it's mystifying to a lot of people how they've gotten where they've gotten. I've picked against them a lot this year because I thought their luck or their fortuitous bounces or their turnover plus margin would have run out eventually. And it did against Penn State, but they found a way to win anyway. They gave up 200 on the ground. They lost the turnover battle, and they trailed by 2 possessions. 3 things I thought they couldn't afford, and they won anyway. So they're kind of like a Swiss Army knife. They got a lot of different ways to beat you.
Yeah, well, looking ahead, I want to touch on Ohio State, Texas, and we'll touch on the title game, and then I got some college football questions. That Ohio State-Texas game, Texas's defense played their asses off. I know Ohio State had some penalties that cost them, but holding Jeremiah Smith to 3 yards, that Sark play call, they had first and goal at the 1, down 7 with 2 minutes left. And I get you don't want to run into the teeth of the defense because that's Ohio State's strength. I get that to an extent. But how are you running the shot? Like, you've got a quarterback in the shotgun already, and you run a toss. That running back's catching the ball, at the 8 or 9 yard line on that second down where they lost the 7 yards. And, I know the sack fumble that Jack Sawyer made is going to be the famous play, but it feels like they lost the game with that play call.
Well, I didn't like it. It's not even a play call thing for me. I'm sure if you and I and Sark got in a room together and he had to explain the thinking there. He'd explain it in a way that made us go, oh, okay, I get it. That makes perfect sense. I mean, he knows his guys. He knows the opponent. He knows the tendencies. He knows the situation. He knows all that. So I saw a few people break the play down. And their explanation was, this play call wasn't bad. Downs just made a great play. Well, all that's probably true, man. And a lot of the thinking behind calling that play is probably true. That's where I have an issue. I got an issue with the thinking. Like I've got an issue with the philosophy. Because if you're around Texas or you listen to them talk, all they talk about in recruiting is big bodies, big humans, big humans. That's all they talk about. They acquire them. They accumulate them. They stack them. They probably average per man heavier along the O-line and the front than anybody Ohio State will have played. Not to mention, in those situations, in goal to go inside the 3, they'll bring in guys from the defensive side to just add in the backfield. So you got a ton of beef. If that's my philosophy, and I've followed through on it, and I've gotten all those big humans, and I've got first and goal from the 1 with a trip to the title game on the line, you would just have to stop me running the ball straight ahead 4 times. There's no way I'm doing all that. And then the net result is, I think I'm going to go 1 time, and if it doesn't work, let's go toss sweep where the ball starts 9 yards away from the goal line voluntarily. Like I'm throwing it back there, and I'm letting Ohio State, which is an insane east-west speed team defensively, I'm going to give Caleb Downs an opportunity. Because the thing about Downs making a phenomenal play, Mintzy, is it's not like you didn't know he's capable of that already. Or it's not like you didn't know he was on the field. Like you see him out there. So that's where I had a problem with it. Not the individual play calling. I got a problem with the philosophy that led to that being the presumed or the perceived answer.
My other question on it was I wasn't sure. So they put Arch Manning in, and he had the first down and the 4th down run, but he got smoked. And I wonder if he had like a concussion because he got hit in the head pretty hard. I don't know if maybe that was a factor why he didn't get in on the goal line thing, because it seems like having his running ability helps in short yardage.
Could have been. I never heard that. But that doesn't mean it's not true. Could have been the case. Yeah, there were a few times this year. The Georgia game, the SEC championship game, I thought they ought to use him a little bit more, and they didn't. But then after the game, I actually played this on our show. Someone asked Sark just about Quinn Ewers. And he goes for about 2 or 3 minutes just talking about him. And the first thing he admitted was something that, had kind of been known behind the scenes, is that he's been hurt all year. Which a lot of guys have, but he's been hurt in specifically a way I think that impacts his ability to push the ball down the field, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I kind of knew that during the season, which is why I was dumbfounded that they didn't use Arch a little bit more than they did. Because it was obvious defenses weren't respecting it because they had picked up on it. Well, he did talk about a lot of loyalty-based things, and he talked a lot about the kind of guy Quinn Ewers is. Now, at the end of the day, you still need to play the guy that gives you the best chance to win. And Sark obviously thought that was Quinn Ewers, but it also shows you, like, a fan thinks about it from an Xbox perspective. There's no emotion. There's no anything else. Let's just make the decision, press the button. That's not the way it is as a head coach. You get paid a lot of money. You still got to make the right decision, but it gets a whole lot tougher when you're dealing with humans and you're around them every day, and one of them's doing everything the right way, and it's – I don't know, man. I empathize with it at the very least.
Do you think Quinn Ewers said there were, he talked before the game like he was going to go to the draft, but now there's rumors he's looking at the portal. Do you think he's going to play another year of college football?
I think the portal was always an option. I think some teams that have made moves in the portal have made those moves assuming that either the proposition of counting on getting Quinn Ewers was going to be too risky, or they don't think he's going to go in the portal. I mean, as of last week, Mintzy, 90% of the people who I talked to who would know thought Quinn Ewers was going in the draft. That's been the overwhelming sentiment. I have not heard anything to the contrary, but it's a totally new world right now. Because it used to be just full risk reward. It used to be either go to the draft and get my money or come back to school, risk everything short of an insurance policy to improve my stock. Now it's, do I go to the draft or come back for $4 million? So, the fall from one versus the other is a lot less steep. So I'd never say never on any of these quarterback decisions, unless you're a slam dunk top 10 pick, which he's not. I would never say never on any of these things. My guess is he still goes to the draft.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, he's probably a third, fourth round pick, so I mean, he'd get more money for he's not going to be getting paid $4 million if he goes to the NFL. Of all the quarterback transfers, obviously we saw Carson back to Miami, Jackson Arnold to Auburn, tons of them. Do you have any of them that you think is the best fit?
Well, the Mensa kid who went to Duke for an insane amount of money,
That was crazy. 2 years, $8 million.
400% above what the market was going to yield if he didn't go there. That one, does that not have to be a great fit? I mean, when you covet a kid that badly, he must be a great fit for them. And he played good ball at Tulane, right down there in your backyard. You would have, I mean, folks who watch G5 ball would have seen him. I don't know that a lot of just national, watch the big games only, and my team college football fans saw him a lot. But that's also why you got to be careful, because I remember when the headline first came out that Duke goes 9-3, Malik Murphy, their quarterback's going in the portal. Well, everybody started to rip that kid. Oh, you transfer from Texas. Oh, now you're transferring from Duke again. You're just a mercenary looking for the biggest bag. Well, come to find out, that wasn't all his choice. He was kind of informed in no uncertain terms, we're going to get this dude, you do whatever you want to, but not going to be as much money here for you, and your starting job's not safe. So he made a decision, but Duke kind of made the decision for him. So
yeah, he ended up at Oregon. When he ended up at Oregon State, that seemed pretty apparent.
Yeah, ding. And then the other one is the Mendoza kid from Cal goes to Indiana, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Yeah, Mendoza's good.
Yeah, that's another one that some of these, so like I think Miami looked at Mendoza and then said, "Yeah, we think we can do better," which is cool. Maybe they did with a healthy Carson Beck. Maybe they did, but this is year 2 now where the dust settles on the portal, and you look and you say, "Man, Cignetti kind of came out of this really well." I think Brom and Louisville are another program that they do it really well. Somehow, when the dust settles and it feels like all the big boys have been fighting over the same few names, you look at Louisville or you look at Indiana now, and you say, man, they kind of know what they're doing. And in Texas Tech, dude, just in general, not just quarterback, but in general.
Yeah, they threw down. Texas Tech threw down huge in the portal. I believe it's LSU, Texas Tech, Ole Miss to the top 3 in the portal rankings.
They went after it. Like Texas Tech, I think what happened is they got a taste. Their people got a taste of competing for the Big 12 title. And it wasn't enough to win, but it was enough for Joey McGuire to basically look back at everyone like a general looking back at the troops saying, okay, now you see what it could be like. Now, if you want to go the rest of the way, now if you want to fully win this thing, here's what it's going to take. And they all just yell, yes, sir, whatever it takes, yes, sir, because that's like some Miami stuff. That's what you would be expecting from Oregon in terms of the noise that was made in the portal, and it's Texas Tech.
Yeah, it'll be fun, though, because that Big 12, Arizona State showed wide open this year. Yep. Texas Tech could make a big move. They got that oil and gas money in West Texas, so I mean, you might as well spend it. I want to ask about the Dion thing. So rumors that Dallas is interested in him. I had a lot of questions about how interested he'd be in coaching college football without his kids playing, just because that was obviously so much of a part of it from Jackson State to Colorado. Do you think there's a chance Prime ends up in Dallas here? That would be insane.
Yeah, there's a chance of it. I don't have any knowledge of it, but I think there's a chance of it. I got the knowledge everyone else has. So I think his plan this is my feel. I think his plan once upon a time was, I need to go find a job, which ended up being Colorado, that I can hold as long as Shador plays and Travis Hunter plays, and then I'll make my next move. I think during last season specifically, I think he started to evolve his thinking on how long he could stay in college. I think when he saw that his way was working, 2 years now, they improved year 1, they improved year 2. They were in the thick of it. They almost made the playoff this year.
Yeah,
when he saw that, hey, there's some staying power with this, I think he started to evolve his thinking. Now, that never slams the door on, I could go to a bigger program or I could go to the NFL. You always keep your options open. You and I do it. Any sound thinking human would do that. But all I'm saying is, I think there's a little more adhesive between Dion and college football now than there was previously, where it was just thought to be a 2-year in and out. And so, I mean, my fingers are, of course, crossed. I hope he stays in the college game. But I go back to the same thing I said with Ewers in the NFL draft and the portal. Never say never on this stuff. Whole new world. We have no data points. We have no previous case study that's like Dion. Dion's one of one, so I have no way of looking at history and being guided as to what to think will happen here.
While we're talking about the wild coaching moves, the Belichick, North Carolina obviously stole a lot of headlines in the last week and a half. What do you think that era is going to be like? I will give this to UNC. They were behind in NIL, and part of this thing was it sounded like they opened up the NIL bag for Belichick.
Yeah, well, they better. That's all it's about. You know, one of the things I think is a little short-sighted, and let me start by telling you what I think is going to happen. I think the Belichick North Carolina thing will be very much a mixed bag, but you got to define your expectations. So if you're a fan who just wants to be competitive, I think Bill Belichick can do that for you. If you're a fan who looks and says, we just got Belichick and we're going to spend a lot, that means you expect playoff every year, or you expect playoff contention every year. You expect to be a prime player in the ACC every year. I don't expect that for North Carolina. So I think they'll be a competitive, good story. I'm not sure that they'll elevate quite to the level a lot of other folks think they will. But the folks who think they will keep telling me the same thing, Mintzy. They keep saying, well, college football is just like the NFL now. So it makes sense that this is the right time for Bill Belichick. And I keep looking and keep thinking, do you think just because we pay players legally now that's all it takes to mirror the NFL? Because I look at the free agency structure, and in the NFL, you go get free agent Ben Mintz. He signs a 3 or 4 year deal. You don't ever even speak the word contract to him again for 3.5 years. Free agency is an everyday thing in college football. Not only is it a year-to-year thing, your running back who you paid $350 may come to you after overperforming in September and say, I want more money. This happens every week across college football. You just don't read about it. So that's nothing like the NFL. Secondly, the people you're dealing with in the agency world, in many cases, are scumbags. They are slime, and they're not certified. So they could rip kids off. They could have the worst ulterior motives imaginable at the forefront of their approach, and you got to deal with them. Not only can you do nothing about it, you got to deal with them. That is not the way it is in the NFL. You do that, you go to jail if you're a certified agent in the NFL. And if you're not certified, you don't get to represent clients or coaches in the NFL. The third thing, this is the most important part to me, is the NFL is not a developmental sport. The NFL is slightly developmental, but mainly it's plug and play. These kids better be developed in the college time, not in the NFL time. That's not what we're here to do. In college, it's all about development. And also the eval and the projection side of things. Mintzy, it's already hard enough, as the Patriots found out in their latter drafts, it's already hard enough to look at a kid who's played at Pitt for 3 years and project how he'll do in the NFL. And that dude's way more projected relative to the NFL than a junior receiver in Winston-Salem, North Carolina is as it relates to projecting to college. So it's not to say that Bill Belichick can't do those things, but I don't know that it's some massive edge compared to other college programs that some folks think it is, just because the NFL pays players and college pays players. There's so much more connective tissue that you have to have and similarity that you have to have for your game to look like the NFL. And college does not have that, contrary to popular belief right now.
I'm just real curious about the offensive thing. I feel like he'll definitely get the defense better, but I'm very curious what a Bill Belichick college football offense ends up looking like. All right, got a few more for you. All right, so there's so much talk about, the college football infrastructure being messed up. As commissioner of college football, I've seen people suggest like you could switch to OTAs in summer to where people could transfer later and play through the end of the season. Do you think that's a feasible idea to maybe have people play through bowls and postseason, or is it is what it is?
I think a lot of it is what it is. The reason I always struggle to do those things, to do hey, here's what I would do if I were commissioner, is because, of course, I've got a list of things I would love to do. But then there's the understanding that you can't do most of it given the current structure, given the current sign-off that you need to get and the cooperation you have to get. And also, that's not even to mention the legal side of it. Like, what can you legally do? Hey, man, I'd love to say, once you transfer, you can't transfer again without penalty. Well, you can't do it because you get sued. So I'd love to inject a lot of that stuff. I've seen a lot of the ideas. They're doing the AFCA convention in Charlotte right now, and all the coaches are there. So I'm sure they've got a lot of ideas they're throwing around. I think we're coming to a point, Mincy, where you're going to have to roll up your sleeves. I think everyone's waited on the results of the election because that impacts Congress, which impacts the kind of laws that you can pass and what's favorable and not favorable. So you pass that, you get into now a session where you think you can get some laws passed. I've never been a guy who thinks the federal government can come save college football. But in that specific vein, I think they're going to have that in some way. If they're going to create new rules and a legitimate NIL structure to go along with revenue sharing, they're going to have federal oversight. And the reason is because of the NIL piece. Because it doesn't matter if me and you go to LSU and LSU is dividing $20 million up amongst our roster. That's great. And we're making money. But that doesn't take away the NIL possibility that some rich booster from Thibodeau could just step in and pay me $12 million over 4 years. He could do that, and there's no stopping that. So the federal oversight comes in a lot of people's minds where you would have a federally observed and run clearinghouse where you could still do NIL deals, but that entity, whoever that rich booster is, he has to prove in a court of law, if necessary, that the amount of money he gave you to perform a service is equal to what the market would bear for someone like you. So it's not just pay for play. That sounds wonderful. It also sounds like it's going to be really, really hard to pass. And so basically what I'm saying is, yeah, if you could do that and you structured roster moves the right way and the portal the right way and you incentivized guys to stay on one team because they earn more as a sophomore, then more as a junior, then more as a senior, and it starts over if you transfer, and you combine that with federally regulated NIL, you could have a lot more continuity of roster. You could have a lot less transfer portal churn. I'd be all for it, I think, if I saw the details as a commissioner. I don't know that legally we'll ever be able to get there.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious to see how it evolves because it's just such a wild west right now. And I don't know. It's just a crazy world. A lot of talk about the SEC allegedly being done because they're not going to have a national champion 2 years in a row. I'm laughing about that. I don't believe any of that. I know it is a different world with the portal, but I feel like that's a little overblown. I need to see at least a couple more years before I believe that. What do you think?
Well, basically what's happening right now is someone just took a trip to Omaha, Nebraska on a Tuesday in June, and it poured down rain all day. And that person came back, and you asked them, hey, how was Omaha? And you said, it just rains in that city the whole year. And you look and you say, Omaha, Nebraska? It rains all year? And they said, yeah, dude, I was just there. It was pouring down rain. Your logical reaction would be, well, yeah, it poured down rain on Tuesday, but yeah, no one ever said it's not going to rain in Omaha, but it's not like it's Seattle. It doesn't rain all year. You would, of course, be right, and no one would argue that. But then when we delve into the conversation of college football and someone says, dude, the SEC stranglehold on the sport is done. They are second-class citizens now. Their run is over. You ask, what's the evidence? There's no SEC team in the title game this year. You're like, but what's the rest of the evidence? All you just told me is it rained in Omaha on Tuesday. You didn't tell me it's like the Amazon. So I think of this as the same way. This could have happened in 2016. You could have had a random year in 2016. I'll tell you the other thing that people, I guess, just don't want to admit is they talk about the SEC's run of dominance. It was Nick Saban and Alabama's run of dominance, and then some other SEC on top of it. Like LSU in 2019, absolutely. A couple of these Georgia teams, absolutely. Outside of that, man, if you really zoom out and look at it, it was Saban, Alabama, and then everything else worked downstream of that. The SEC was still really good, probably still the best conference, even without that. But it wasn't, a landslide without that. Mintzy, Saban retired. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah.
He was gone. So, what I'm trying to say is there are a lot of people who are trying to, overthink the room on this and trying to, existentially rewrite the future of college football. Here's what happens. You injected three things into the equation: NIL, the portal, and the greatest of all time retiring. In what universe would that not have a negative impact on the conference that he had resided in, and the conference that had enjoyed the pole position for a long time. It makes perfect sense. It's just a 1-year sample size. For all we know, the next 3 title games will feature 1 or 2 SEC teams. Like it's the difference in walking outside in 20-degree weather for 5 seconds versus walking out there for an hour. You didn't even get conditioned to the cold in 5 seconds. So you got to stand out there a little while. So we got to stand in this for a little while to know what's real.
That's what I feel the same way. The parody is interesting, though. I'm curious. Okay, the one message, and there's so much argument about what teams deserve the playoff and the SMU thing and the Indiana thing, and I get all that. The one message I was worried about was they said it's just like don't lose 3 games. That's what the message said, and I'm not even sitting here saying like Bama got blown out at Oklahoma, Ole Miss lost at home to a 4-8 Kentucky. Like these teams, they've made their own grave. But my question is, like, you look at LSU, they've lost 5 straight week 1 games, playing these big non-conference games. They're at Clemson week 1 next year. You don't want to lose 3 games. Is this going to discourage teams from playing these big non-conference games early? Because what that committee message said with SMU and Indiana not beating any top 25 teams, it's like more about not losing games than playing elite competition. I was concerned about it.
Yeah, as of now, you should be concerned about it. As of now, if I were in LSU's position, I'd cancel the Clemson game. Theoretically. Realistically, I know you can't do that. But as it stands right now, you are right. And as it stands right now, people can talk all they want about how you need to schedule tougher, you need to do this. No, you don't. No, you don't. That's spring and summer talk. When it comes time for December, when the rubber meets the road and you select on that selection Sunday, you're putting teams in there because you still believe you are what your record says you are. It's a huge lie. It's the biggest lie in college football. You are what your record says you are. No, you're not. In pro sports, you can sell me that because everyone plays a pro team every week. And so strength of schedule, 1 versus 32 in the NFL is like this. Strength of schedule, 1 versus 134 in college football is so wide, I can't even fit my hands on the screen. So that is what they're saying. Now, the follow-up is I think a lot of people see that. And a lot of people understood how ridiculous this format was. Whether you believe in 12 teams or 14 teams, however you believe in it, I think people realized collectively, dude, this is a farce that Boise has a first-round bye and Arizona State has a first-round bye here and like Ohio State and Oregon. And look at all these teams and look at how it's stacked up. So everyone, I think a super majority, at least of people, understand some changes need to be made. And I think eventually there will be a format that makes more sense. But did you pay attention to how everyone just blindly assumed, oh, this is going to change as early as next year? That's not the way that's going to work because you've got to get sign-off from everyone whose name is on that contract, including like the Mountain West Conference Commissioner. The Mountain West has no incentive to change that.
Hell no.
The Big 12 has no incentive to change that until they absolutely have to. And that's not going to come this year unless they voluntarily do it. That comes the next year when they're renegotiating the future deal.
No, you're totally right. If I were any of these non-SEC, why would you mess with it when you got a chance to get those buys? I mean, it was just wild, though, because if you look like if it had gotten reseeded, Texas would have been, the 3, Penn State 4, Notre Dame 5, and then the team that got screwed the most was Oregon. I mean, that was obviously because Ohio State lost to Michigan, but you go undefeated, you win the Big Ten title, and then you had to draw Ohio State. I mean, that was a tough deal for the Ducks for sure. This national title game, do you give Notre Dame Ohio State's 8.5? I mean, Notre Dame seems like they always find a way to fight. They can't win a shootout. I'm sure of that. Do you think their defense can keep them in it like Texas was able to? Or just not enough forces?
That's what you got to go off of. You got to look at what Texas did. If you take away the Ohio State defensive score at the end, Ohio State was on track for 21. Okay, if you're Notre Dame, you have to bank on the idea that we need a plan where 20 points wins this game for us. That's hard to do, man, but it's not impossible to do. And you got to figure, if it's just hard to do, we're Notre Dame. We're in the spot for a reason. We can accomplish hard. We can't do impossible, but we can accomplish hard. So how do we hold them to 20? And how do we make sure we score at least one more point than them? If that means winning the turnover battle, if that means making Ohio State go 3 for 14 on 3rd and 4th down, or whatever it is, you got to be able to do that. The other thing they did, Mintzy, against Penn State is they had a 54-yard touchdown pass They had 2 more passes, 30 or more yards. That's normally not Notre Dame. They're not an explosive pass team. But they had a few of them, which I think ended up being the difference in the game for them. So if they can hit a couple of those, if nothing more than the flip field position, and then they can make Ohio State drive the length of the field on them, look, Ohio State may still win. But you're giving yourself a legitimate fourth quarter chance if you do that. The spread's not 20.5, okay? The spread's 8.5 right now. So it's being painted as this monumental upset if it were to happen. The Michigan game was over twice as big a point spread, and Michigan ended up winning in Columbus. So I know it's night and day different situation. Just to give folks who don't pay attention to point spreads an idea, this wouldn't be the biggest upset of all time. It wouldn't even be – I don't even think it'd be the biggest national championship game upset.
No, I like Notre Dame, and Ohio State was plus 11 when they beat Miami in 01. I remember that one. It was 11.5, and that was maybe the biggest one. I don't know. Notre Dame's just really comfortable in this underdog role. I feel like people are writing them off, and I get it because Ohio State's got all the firepower. But it seems like Notre Dame and Freeman flourished in this, so I think we're going to have a hell of a game. You're heading to Atlanta for it?
Yeah, I'll be down there.
Nice. Tickets, I believe, seeing like $1,500 to get in. I love seeing that for college football.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always pay attention to from a venue's perspective. Like, you're at the mercy of what the tournament gives you, or in the first rounds or second rounds or whatever. You're at the mercy of the draw. So I remember looking at it and thinking, hold up, like the Fiesta Bowl has to deal with Penn State, Boise. It's just not as high demand a ticket. The Rose Bowl gets Oregon, Ohio State, and it's just pure like luck of the draw. The Sugar Bowl, up until the terrorist attack, which threw everything into a blender, you got Notre Dame, Georgia dropped in your lap. Like, that's a dream matchup for the Sugar Bowl. Well, similarly, in Atlanta, you get Notre Dame, Ohio State. You could not draw that up any better.
No, I agree. I think it's awesome for college football, and I'm glad to see the demand and all that's good. Looking ahead, last thing I got for you, looking ahead to next year, a lot of change. Florida's red hot, the way they closed the year. I think LSU's got a lot of momentum in the portal. I think they're going to be really good. Any other teams you think could ascend next year?
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Clemson looks like. So they bring back a quarterback. They hit at times offensively this year, but
played great against Texas.
Yeah, well, the move that Dabo just made, not to go into the portal. Like, yes, he's made portal moves. That's getting the headlines. Pay attention to what he just did hiring. Because he, 3 years ago, had Brent Venables leave him. And he's got an opportunity to go just basically pluck the best defensive coordinator in the country. He promoted from within Wes Goodwin, a guy who would never call plays in his life. I thought it was a terrible move at the time. He just fired him. This time, he did go out, and he got Tom Allen from Penn State. Okay, that's a big deal. This may be, since that run in the 20-teens, could be the best pair of coordinators that Dabo's had there. And they're not a long way off at Clemson. We just saw that. So I'm interested to see what they do. The state of South Carolina is crazy in college football right now. I also, this Carson Beck thing at Miami, and also them getting a new defensive coordinator, really interested to see how that plays out. Want to see if Virginia Tech can make the next step. And then Michigan is Underwood, is he the guy from day one there? Because it sounds like that's the plan. And they improved steadily this year. So
Wink Martindale had that defense flying around. I mean, you look at the Ohio State. I mean, the way they played against Ohio State and Bama was just insanely impressive. No, I agree with you on Michigan for sure. They're definitely on the way up. The SEC thing, do you think Bama's going to hire Ryan Grubbs as OC? I feel like it seems like it's inevitable.
I don't know. I should ask about that. I don't know.
When he got let go by Seattle, and he was already there last year, and I know he's DeBoer's guy. I feel like in the way they struggle down the stretch on offense, it seems like it's kind of like obviously going to happen.
Yeah, here's the one thing about that. I don't know if internally at Alabama they think they struggled offensively because of their offense. I think they believe they struggled offensively because they were kind of, for lack of a better term, held hostage by quarterback play week in and week out. And it was as schizophrenic as any major team that was in the running for a playoff spot. So I don't even know who their starting quarterback's going to be, nor do they.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
I assume it'll be Ty Simpson. But I think – look, I'm not saying no to Ryan Grubb. Don't misunderstand me. But I'm saying I don't know that they look at that situation as desperately from a schematic X's and O's perspective as maybe, a typical fan does, because I think they know what they did and didn't have in the building last year and how different that may be this fall. And that's even without us knowing who's going to start for him at quarterback.
Yeah, well, Josh, what was your favorite? Right, we're about to get out of here, but before, like, you travel, you've been doing the Once Upon a Saturday the last few years. What's been your favorite venue or game you've been to the last couple of years?
The Cotton Bowl for Oklahoma, Texas is my favorite neutral site venue to go to. Notre Dame Stadium for the Ohio State game last year has been probably my favorite setting. Georgia at Bama this year and Ohio State at Oregon this year were two of the most insane environments that I think I've been in. And then anytime you can be at the Rose Bowl, buddy, you got to be at the Rose Bowl. And we were able to do that one a couple of weeks ago too.
Hell yeah. Well, you're crushing it. Man, loving the show. It seems like you're growing more and more. I know the off-season, you always say there's no off-season anymore anyway. So, just check it out. Appreciate Josh joining us here this morning on Wake Up Mintzy on Barstool. Big fan. Really, thank you for giving us your time. Very nice of you.
Appreciate it, brother.
All right. Thank you all, as always, for joining us for Wake Up Mintzy. Shout out to DraftKings. King of the end zone last night. If you took the Rams defense, the defensive touchdown got it, you're in line for a big share of money. I know Stephen Shea had it. Hopefully they're going to do that King of the end zone promotion again this week. Dude Wipes clean them up all of our messes. Amazon, Target, Walmart, all over the World Wide Web. One use of Dude Wipes will change your life. Unbelievable product. Big event in the Barstool office today is why I'm dressed up. Once again, leave voicemails. We're going to add that as a fun thing with the program. And shout out to Tyler Moody for holding it down. And thanks to Josh Pate, just awesome rising star in the college football media world. We appreciate him giving us our time and solid college football discussion this morning. NFL playoffs, fun matchups next week. We'll get into that a lot more on Thursday. The Washington Commanders, Jaden Daniels, unbelievable effort Sunday night. Best rookie quarterback I've ever seen in pro football. Washington, Detroit, Rams dominating Minnesota last night. The Vikings were 14-2 9 days ago. Man, I've never seen it go so wrong so fast for a 14-2 team. But Rams at Eagles should be super interesting. Got a street fight between the Ravens and the Bills, and KC hosting Houston in the final 8 of the NFL. College Football National Championship Monday night, Ohio State, Notre Dame. So more great football this week. Lots going on in the Barstool office as always. What a time to be alive. Thank y'all for joining us for Wake Up Mintzy, presented by Dude Wipes, Stella Blue. Shout out Tyler Moody. We'll be back tomorrow.